Hi, I am Ronda, and I want to tell my story on adrenal insufficiency and what I've gone through. In August 2010, I had a stroke, and I had to have an occluder put into my heart. In 2012, I went through brain surgery. Then, in August of 2015, I was stuck in bradycardia for a month where my heart rate would not go up above 40 and my blood pressure was bottoming out, and I had to have a PICC line put in to keep my blood pressure and keep me alive. 3 weeks later, or about a month later, I was in the hospital and I ended up with a pacemaker put in. I had been hit over 11,000 times. Went through all that, did not have to have it. In June of 2016, I had a heart attack. 3 weeks later, July 3rd, I ended up back in the hospital with the second heart attack. And they said it was blood being shut off to the heart, is why I had the heart attack. They did a heart cath. They put nitroglycerin in, and it opened the vessels right up, the arteries right up, and blood went through. So I was having cardiovascular collapsation, but they did not know why. I went to several doctors 2 days after my pacemaker was put in. They took my gallbladder, said that I would feel so much better because I was in so much pain all the time, and I couldn't eat, and I was down to 89 pounds. I got fired by the doctor that took my gallbladder out because he said everything was too complex. My cardiovascular doctor fired me and said that it was not vascular, that I needed to go to the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, and I could not afford to do that. So I went to another specialist to find out and try to get a scope done. And when I went, I was doing speech therapy. They did 18 biopsies of my stomach. My stomach was very shrunk, and the biopsies all came back normal. My esophagus had narrowed in 3 different areas where I was choking. Mine, this is a normal one. This is a normal stomach. That was my stomach. They did not know why. They said that they would wait 6 months and do a colonoscopy. I looked at that doctor and I said, I'm not going to settle for that. I had cortisol levels that were low. When my heart cath went bad on July 5th, I ended up, thank God, that it did go bad because I had to stay in the hospital another night. The hospitalist that worked that night came in and asked me if I ever had my cortisol levels checked, and I said probably. I always have blood drawn all the time. He said no, they don't do it unless you ask or a doctor is familiar with how important the cortisol levels are. So I signed a paper. I agreed to have the cortisol levels checked. His grandmother had Addison's disease, and he realized the signs that I was hypotensive and I was also hypertensive. My heart rate would go in bradycardia, tachycardia. Um, I was hit over 11,000 times in less than a year with my pacemaker. So I came home after the heart attack, and my primary doctor called me and said that my cortisol levels were low. And he had the home nurses draw again, and then the second time they came back low again. I said, and what's next? He said, we will redraw, and then I will refer you to an endocrinologist. And I said, no, refer me to an endocrinologist now. I wasn't going to be seen until January 17th of this year. And thank God for my primary doctor and his team for begging for at least testing, because they said I would not make it until January 17th. I was having problems where I would have problems with types of amnesia. In large crowds, I would forget things. Christmas of 2015, I don't remember. I don't remember Thanksgiving. I don't remember school shopping with my oldest daughter, or my youngest daughter. And I didn't know where I was, how I got there, and it was pretty scary because I drove us. And thank God she had her license at the time and she was able to drive us home out of the mall. My symptoms got worse. I started thinking that maybe I'm going to the wrong doctor. I'm crazy and I need to go see a psychologist or something, and I'm really not sick because I had stress tests done. I had all kinds of, the cardiovascular doctor was saying, it's not vascular. And I went to my primary and was crying last year in January saying, I feel like I'm dying on the inside, but I don't know what to do. And I was throwing up. I would have diarrhea, and it would be extreme diarrhea to constipation. There was no in between. One way or another, everything came out. I did not have any eating disorders, so he did say I was having moments of amnesia and that I was not crazy, that something is going on, and we just need to figure out what it is. We thought maybe it was my AVM, because I have an AVM in my left temporal lobe. But we knew that if it was an acute bleed or a rupture, I definitely wouldn't have been there still talking. So, my sister and I went, they finally scheduled an ACTH stimulation test, and we went to the cancer center and had that done, and just going a half hour away and just sitting in a chair for them to do the test, and it was a very relaxing atmosphere. And then coming home, it just had worn me out and I went to sleep. They had called by 4:30 that day. We had to go the following day for an emergency appointment to see the endocrinologist, and that's when she started me on hydrocortisone because I was definitely adrenal insufficient. And what adrenal insufficiency is, adrenal insufficiency, I'm going to read this so that I don't mess it up, occurs when the body is unable to produce enough cortisol, a hormone which helps maintain essential functions such as blood pressure, blood sugar, heart muscle tone. Just as a diabetic must take insulin, people with adrenal insufficiency must take cortisol replacements to be able to live. During times of stress, our bodies need even more cortisol for these vital functions. That includes emotional stress, that also includes physical stress on the body. Without enough cortisol, a life-threatening event called an adrenal crisis occurs. An adrenal crisis can quickly spiral into shock, heart failure, coma, and death. In an adrenal crisis, until the cortisol levels are normalized, solar cortex treatments are issued. Any other kind of issues will not be effective. 1/4 of people that go into adrenal crisis end up dying because of professional error, because they try to treat the symptoms and not the problem, because they're not aware of adrenal insufficiency or Addison's disease. My first crisis started on November 30th, 2016, and I went to one hospital. I was stress dosing, and stress dosing means you just up your hydrocortisone a little bit because I had a bad fall and got cut up, and it's harder for us to heal. We can't heal normal, and it's stress on the body. And I was very tired that day, and you don't question if you're in crisis or not. It's better to be safe than sorry. We had to carry an emergency kit on us at all times, and in our emergency kit you have to have at least 2 emergency injections of Solocortef. And this will keep our organs functioning for about 5 hours until the hospital can take over. And then they have to start immediately on blood work and IVs and start doing steroids through IV until the crisis is over. On November 30th, when I went in, I injected the shot myself. It's a very painful shot. It's not a fun shot at all. And then we called 911. We went by protocol. The ER went by protocol. When I got up on the floor, they treated me as if I was having seizures and possibly respiratory failure. They gave me morphine. They gave me Toradol. They gave me Ativan. And they gave me the wrong steroid. During that time, I remember being in the ER. I don't remember being so much up on the floor. I remember pulling myself over to the hospital bed and pulling my mask down because I was coughing and I had to spit. And after that, I really don't remember what happened. My sister would have to say what happened because I wasn't physically there. I was physically there. I was not there to see what happened. Well, when we called 911 and she went by ambulance, once we got her up into the patient room, they had her, I don't know, just laying there in bed. They were trying to say she was having anxiety attacks and all this other stuff that we knew wasn't happening. Well, then she went into some kind of, almost like a seizure, but not a seizure. Like the top half of her body was moving, but the bottom half was still. So it was like her face was twitching, her cheek was twitching, her arm and shoulder was twitching, kind of like she was going kind of like that, which is not a full-blown seizure. So I yelled for, a friend of ours was there at the time, and she yelled for me because I was in the restroom. And I come running out, and I called for the nurses and the doctor, and they come in with, like, flashlights and stuff, and everybody's yelling, Ronda, Ronda, wake up, Ronda, and, you know, trying to get her to come to. And I personally thought she was a goner, because I had never seen that before. It wasn't like a normal seizure where, you know, your whole body shakes. It was completely different, and I've never seen that happen. It was like she was there, but she wasn't there. Her eyes were open. I don't know, it was just really strange. It took probably 10 to 15 minutes to bring her out of it to where she could actually talk again. And then when she came to, she had no idea how she got upstairs. She didn't know what was happening. She thought she was in the room that our mother passed away in, so she was really freaking out. I thought they were going to have to strap her down. But they didn't. They got her all straightened out and got things going. And They couldn't open my eyes.
They couldn't open her eyes because, yeah, because then she went like, during that, she was like unresponsive, so they couldn't get her to, they were holding her eyelids open and shining the light in and stuff and trying to figure out how to get her to wake up, and it took a good 15 minutes before she did. So it was pretty scary.
So when I came to, my sister was sitting on the bed, and she was like, I seen that she was crying, and I was looking around panicked, and I was like, how did we get here? How did we get here? Because I remembered being in the ER, and I do remember grabbing the side of the bed and pulling my mask down to spit, but I didn't realize that I was up on the floor. And it was just really scary. And then the next day, they pumped me full of the same stuff again, and any kind of blood thinner kills your cortisol. Any kind of anesthesia kills your cortisol. I had, in July of 2015, where my teeth were going bad from the bottom up, but they didn't know why that would happen. I had to go in and I had to have oral surgery done and be completely put out. My internal stitches never healed. Um, so then I ended up having the pacemaker put in that same year. 2 days later, the gallbladder removed. Um, Going under for the cath, more anesthesia, the heart attacks, their, thrombotic therapy and heparin therapy, all these blood thinners, all these anesthesias, the scope, everything. It just made everything progress even farther and faster when it was low cortisol levels the whole time. I was complaining of severe headaches in the back of my head that went from my neck up. I had a lot of back pain, lower back pain. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia a year prior. I do not think I have fibromyalgia now. I was diagnosed with a lot of different things that I don't think I have. Our mother was diagnosed with a lot of things that we do not believe that she had, and we are about 150% sure that her organs had failed and they couldn't figure out why, and we think that she had passed from Addison's disease on 11/12/2014. But back to November 30th of 2016, when they released me the following day. I was not out of a crisis yet. Ativan had kept me awake 26 hours. Through the night, early Friday morning, I had fallen outside, just outside my bedroom door. My daughter helped me get back into bed. Then I had a friend that came and visited with me, and I was talking to her, and then, I still wasn't able to sleep. I was afraid to take anything because they made it out like I had overdosed. And I did not overdose on anything, so then I was afraid to take anything because I was afraid I'd go to sleep and I wouldn't wake up. I had fought too hard to find answers and to find out what is going on and fight to stay alive to ever try to overdose. By 6 o'clock on December 2nd, I was alone. My daughter was out delivering stuff. I had gone into the bathroom, and I was just going to go in and, just go pee, and that was going to be it. And all of a sudden, I lost total control of my bowels. I lost total control of everything. My whole body emptied. I have watched 3 people pass away in the last year and a half. My mother, the last 2.5 years, my mother, another woman that I considered a grandmother, and also my grandfather this past March. And I know how the process works, and my mind just went into, oh my God, my worst nightmare is coming true. Because I am a single mom, and I thought my daughter's going to find me like this. My nightmare is going to be my kids finding me gone. And my mind went into panic mode, and I was trying to clean up the mess from my bowels and my bladder emptying. And I kept falling. I kept trying to get to my phone. I kept dropping my phone, trying to get help. I had lost total feeling in the whole lower half of my body. I managed to climb out into the dining room and get underwear and shorts on because I thought, oh my gosh, if my daughter and her boyfriend come back and, she's only 17 years old, what are they going to think? And I couldn't find my cell phone. And I had army crawled and rolled all the way through my house to get to my bedroom because I thought I have to get to the bed, I have to get to the phone to get help. I don't know how I did it because all my muscles were shutting down. And I used every ounce of me that I had to get up into this bed. And as you see, I have a hospital bed. I tried to get the phone and I got it and I dropped it on the floor. And by then I just laid back and I just kept trying to pray. You know, to me it felt like 5 or 6 hours that I was struggling to stay alive. And it ended up being only 48 minutes. I knew if I tried to reach down for the phone, I would end up breaking my neck, and my daughter would find me that way. My daughter and her boyfriend had walked in the bedroom thinking that I was just in here resting, and they found me, and I wasn't able to talk. I kept trying to talk. Seeing her tears, I started crying. All I could do was have tears, and all I could try to get out was, "I'm sorry." And I barely could talk because everything had shut down. They said it looked like I had dislocated my jaw because my whole jaw was like to the left. She got my sister on FaceTime, and it looked like I was having a massive stroke. She called 911. There wasn't an ambulance here in town yet, so the EMT, she came, and the town cop, and they were here first, and then the ambulance came shortly after. And the EMT had been with me in every ambulance ride since 2001. She knew my whole history. And right now my alarm's going off to take my hydrocortisone. And this is what we go through every day to make sure our medications are on time. And I drop everything. I take a nausea pill before I take any hydrocortisone. Even if I don't feel nauseous, I take a nausea pill breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Because throwing up puts stress on your body, and that can throw you back into crisis. During my crisis on December 2nd, I was 1 hour away from not being here. My sugar was below 30. I have never had low sugar. I had no feeling. I was in no pain. They thought they tried to mercy flight me, but they weren't flying because of the wind. Again, I went to a different hospital on the New York side, and they did really good in the ER. They followed the protocol paper, and immediately started running Solocortef through me, and I was able to start mumbling and talking, but I was totally incontinent, and could not move my hands, my fingers, my arms, my toes, my feet.
Total paralysis.
I had nothing. Once I got up on the floor, they put me on the cardiac neuro floor for observation. Once I got up there, that doctor thought that I was having, again, seizures, and that it was something neurological because I have an AVM. He had cut my oral hydrocortisone in half of what I was already taking. And they were squishing my pills up and putting it in applesauce, and they would have to feed it to me very slowly, and sips of water. And they would have to hold it for me because I wasn't able to move. They thought possible stroke, but the CAT scan came back normal. And these pills taste really bad. Then on December 4th, like I said, they taste really bad. On December 4th, while I was still in the hospital, I went down for my second CAT scan on my neck. They kept giving me Percocet. I kept telling them Percocet is not going to help. It is because it's my Addison's. It is adrenal insufficiency. You need to treat that. You need to give me hydrocortisone. You need to up it back to where it is. They weren't checking my cortisol levels. They weren't going by anything. He said he didn't know much. He didn't know anything really about adrenal insufficiency at all. He just thought I just like to argue with him. And when I went down for the second CAT scan on December 4th and I came back, that whole day I was pushing myself pretty hard and trying to get my feet to move, get my hands to move. And I would tell them that they were coming in every 2 hours and doing a neurological exam, and it would be different every time that they tried. And then I would tell them, you have to let my muscles rest, you have to let my body rest, you're pushing it too hard. And they just wouldn't listen to me. And then when I went down for the CAT scan, I came back and I went into what they call a wake coma, where I had no feeling in my body. I never blinked for over 3 hours. I was unable to respond to them. The nurse, Julie, I could hear what was going on, but I was trapped in my own body, and there was nothing I could do. And I could hear my phone vibrating. I could hear my daughter texting me and the vibration tone. And to be trapped, I couldn't even cry. I couldn't even have a tear. But I knew that she was texting me. And the nurse kept saying, Ronda, you need to talk to me. You need to tell me what's going on. Blink if you can hear me. She said I never did blink, that my one eye would twitch a little bit. And I remember hearing her yelling at the doctor, saying that she didn't feel comfortable, and that, she had watched me be positive, from the first night I got up there, and to be positive that I was going to get everything back, that my organs were going to start working, and I was going to be able to start moving. And then I could hear her screaming at that doctor, and he was looking at the signs and symptoms, and he said that her blood pressure is high. If it was her adrenal insufficiency, her blood pressure would be low. That's not always true. And they were also giving me Florida twice a day, which I also had to take because of my blood pressure. But they were giving me too much of it, and they were also giving me Midodrine, which I hadn't taken since June. So they were giving me too much, and that would bring my blood pressure way up. Finally, an ICU doctor had come in, and he had poked me all over my body with a paper clip, and there was nothing. There was no reflex. There was no nothing. And he ran 200 milligrams of Solocortef. And then he started, everything just started, going, kind of muffled. They had wrote down, they didn't write anything down. The aide had they didn't leave me alone, and the aide had put my purse on my lap and my iPad, and pressed play, and it was hymns. And the nurse said that it was okay for me to rest, that I can close my eyes and I can rest. They weren't going to let anything happen to me. About 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, I had woken up and came to, and I was able to move my legs. I was able to move my arms. And I was able to talk more clearly. and they were shocked. And I remember hearing the nurse yelling at the doctor saying, how are you going to feel when her 17-year-old daughter comes in here tomorrow and you have to tell her her mother's dead because you failed to listen to her? And I remember hearing her typing on the keyboard. And she did a lot of research on adrenal insufficiency. And when your cortisol levels are low, you have two little walnuts that sit on top of your kidneys. And they look like walnuts, so I call them little walnuts. And they are responsible for your whole immune system, fighting off any kind of sickness. They are responsible for every organ, every tissue, every muscle, everything in your body. You have 4 pituitary glands up in your brain. A lot of people end up with adrenal insufficiency because they have benign tumors, or something goes wrong up here and it's not sitting, the ACTH isn't signaling, waking up your adrenals, your little walnuts down there to say, hey, wake up, something's wrong. So when that happens and they fail and you don't have the cortisol, your body is fighting against itself. So when you don't have adrenal insufficiency, your body, your cortisol levels change throughout the day, and your body is able to respond to stress and able to respond emotional stress, physical stress, any kind of surgery. When you don't have that, it wants to get rid of everything bad. It wants to hold everything bad in your body and get rid of everything good. And it is see, seek, attack, and kill. And that's basically what the inside of my body has done. And it was finding it a little bit too late. I probably had it for a long time, and it is genetic. So now, that between the pituitary glands and the adrenal glands, they are responsible for over almost 100 different hormones, natural steroids that you make throughout your body. And when you're unable to do that, we are left with 2 medications to try and replace that. The hydrocortisone replaces the cortisol. The Florinef replaces the ACTH. And then I have about 8 to 9 different vitamins that I take 2 to 3 times a day to try and trick my body into holding into the good. I'm not totally incontinent anymore since I've been home, but I am still partially incontinent. I have to get up an hour, at least an hour before my medication, and take it. I cannot get out of bed until after about 45 minutes after I've already taken the hydrocortisone, because I don't have the strength to do it. I use a bedside commode a lot. The evenings get really hard. I have to keep track of my vitals. I also have hypoglycemia now, and that is where your blood sugar goes up and down. So I have to have really, really low carbs to try and maintain my sugar, which is really hard to do. And so now I have to check my sugar 4 times a day as well. I am now weaning off of the hydrocortisone, 5 milligrams every 5 to 7 days, because I was on such a high dose in the hospital. And my whole body goes out of whack again. The slightest noise can throw you back into crisis. There's about 10 in a million of us in the United States that have this, that are diagnosed. There is, when they do autopsies on people that have passed away, they find out they had adrenal insufficiency when they don't know why they passed away. They put down natural causes, whatever, and the family wants autopsies. Those numbers would triple. That's not counting how many people committed suicide. John F. Kennedy had Addison's disease. He didn't make it his first year. I would guarantee that he hired his own assassinator, and that's why they never found out who it was. It's a very painful disease. It's a very deadly disease, and it changes every hour by hour. It mimics lupus. It mimics MS. It mimics a cancers in a way. But they don't find any cancer. And it's just a simple blood test to have done in the morning, and if it's low and you can find it early enough, you can get treatment and you can get help. And I was at the point where I was taking pain medication and having it refilled every 3 weeks, where I wouldn't have it filled before. It was like once every 3-4 months for a headache. And after September, it got so bad where I was so fatigued and so sore that I was taking it a lot, and nothing was helping. And I would just take I would take almost 80 milligrams of melatonin to just try and sleep through the pain. And then after the hydrocortisone stopped, the pain had stopped, and I had felt good and thought, oh my gosh, I've been in pain so long that it's all gone. Now I take 2 Tylenol because I had dislocated my shoulder when I was trying to get help. And then now I have a home nurse that comes in. I also have personal aid, but I have to fast every Thursday night. Every Friday morning, the nurse comes in and draws my blood and checks for cortisol levels and ACTH levels. Of course, they're low. I mean, very low. And this is something that there is no cure for. They can't get rid of it. And we just have to try and hope that I don't end up with Cushing's disease on top of it, or Smith's syndrome, or Hashimoto's. I also have autoimmune. I have problems fighting off any immune. If I was to get a stomach bug, I could be gone within 72 hours. This year alone, over 400 people have died because of a stomach bug, between kids and adults that have secondary adrenal insufficiency or primary, which is considered Addison's, from a simple stomach bug or a viral or a cold. And so we decided that we wanted to do a foundation, a nonprofit foundation, to help raise awareness, to help people get their medications, the vitamins, the emergency kits, the stickers, the wallet cards, everything that insurances won't pay for. And because after I got home, there was a lot that my insurance will not pay for. And it's mainly because a lot of people don't know, and they're educated about it. And so we decided that we are going to do a nonprofit foundation, and it'll be called Adrenal Insufficiency Support Foundation, where we will raise money to help others that are in need, and people that don't have insurance, that can't have that hydrocortisone, because every minute of every hour counts. And if you go on to the Mayo Clinic and look up anything, or you go to the National Adrenal Insufficiency Foundation, you will, the national one, or the National Addison's Disease, you will see so much information on there where we are registered. I also have a medical ID like a star. We can't be in triage, we can't be in a waiting room, because we can die that fast. That emergency shot is only going to keep our organs alive and functioning for about 5 hours. And it's a horrible disease. And the amount of them that have committed suicide, it makes you wonder how many more thought they were crazy because they get diagnosed with eating disorders and they get diagnosed with psychological disorders because no doctors can find anything wrong with them. And it's all could have been cortisol levels. I was diagnosed with chronic migraines. I was diagnosed with the fibromyalgia, the heart complications. I wouldn't have had to have this. My stitches have never healed. I have stitches that fester up still over a year and a half later from having my gallbladder removed. I used to have a flat belly, and now I look like I have a pregnant belly. And that is where you gain it, is right there in your stomach. I use now a lot more safety precautions. I have 2 walkers. I have to have help getting my showers. I cannot do that alone. I had to let my independence down a lot. I'm only 41 years old. And basically, I need help with everything. I drop everything. I get confused easily. Sometimes I will take my night meds in the morning. I have to keep track of everything I eat, my pulse ox, my sugar, my blood pressure, my temperature. Everything has to be wrote constantly.
What was your BP?
Of. It was 112/73, heart rate 92.
Okay.
And this goes on every day. It's the same. And the oral medication of the hydrocortisone doesn't stay in your blood system as long as the solocortef, which is the liquid form for the emergency, it stays in there less. So about this time I get really draggy and I'm pretty much worthless the rest of the day and the night, but my brain won't shut off because the hydrocortisone is keeping everything going. It's really not keeping it doesn't give me the strength to get up and move around like you would think a steroid would do, but it does keep me awake. Too much hydrocortisone can kill you. Too little of hydrocortisone can kill you. So it's all trial and error, and basically you have to be your own nurse, you have to be your own doctor, because it's your body, and you have to figure out how to space your doses, and you have to figure out, depending on what your blood pressure is, on whether or not you take a half a Florinef or you take a whole one, or what you do. Through the night, I lose my sugar completely. I only hold potassium for about 8 to 9 hours. My blood pressure extremely drops through the night. Everything I eat comes out. I digest my food within a day. A normal person is 2 to 4 days for the food to fully digest. I'm not totally incontinent now, but yes, I am still partially incontinent. But I am determined that I will get full function back. And I just encourage everybody, if you have any symptoms of major fatigue and pain in the lower back or going, restless leg syndrome. I was diagnosed with that. I don't have it. I had muscle spasms, neck pain, and, headaches, chronic migraines. Get your cortisol levels checked because there's help, there's treatment out there, and it could be adrenal insufficiency, and the sooner it's caught, the better it is. And I don't know what else to say. I mean, that's
This is why we're starting
the foundation.
foundation.
And everything that happened with me was like deja vu. with our mother. They said that she had dementia and she was on all kinds of psychological pills and she had Alzheimer's and, you know, she was throwing up, she was giving up, she didn't want to eat, and they gave her the stuff in marijuana to make her want to eat in the hospital. 4 doses, nothing. Her liver enzymes went through the roof. She was in liver failure, no cancer. Her kidneys kept failing, no cancer. I've been in stage 1 kidney failure for a while now, according to my blood work. I was getting really bad UTIs and kidney infections, bladder infections to where I would bleed, antibiotics after antibiotics, and it wasn't helping. I don't know why. I feel much better since my diagnosis, although I did have the major crisis. It has taught me to learn my body and to learn my symptoms to where I know when the symptoms are coming on, when I need to up the hydrocortisone to avoid going into crisis, or when I need to cover my ears because there is a mercy flight flying over, or there are sirens going on. There are signs on my doors that tell people before they enter that they have to put a patient mask on and that they have to use hand sanitizer and to keep the voices down because my life depends on it. I have had to change my whole life around this, but I was so close to death that thank God that I'm breathing, not bleeding, sorry. And I have a wall of encouragement that I can see in my bedroom from many people that, you know, sent cards and everything. When I am alone, I don't leave the bedroom. I have snacks in here. I have a small refrigerator in here, and I don't leave the bedroom at all in fears of falling. I don't want to hold my daughter back and make her take care of me, so I let her come and go. Before the video, I couldn't really move. Now, almost, I don't know how long it's been, but now, after taking my medication, I'm able to move a little bit better. So I just really encourage everybody to, even anybody that has this disease and is watching it, don't give up. Keep up the fight, because together we are strong, and Addison's does not own us. Adrenal insufficiency does not own our body. It is our body, and we will kick its ass.